When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Introducing the new Peloton Cross Training Series, powered by Peloton IQ. Enjoy weekly workout plans tailored to your goals with personalized guidance. With weight suggestions to help you discover new strength and rep tracking so you never lose count. Try the new Cross Training Series, powered by Peloton IQ. Designed for your breakthroughs. Terms apply.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
Seconds later, there was a loud bang, followed by the sound of something metal crashing into the Can-Am. It sounded like a gunshot.
I found myself running into Dylan everywhere. On my way to school, in the hallways every day, when I got home in the evening. Now it was like I couldn't avoid him if I tried. It started to feel really strange.
From Killer Podcasts. True tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This week, we have 3 creepy experiences that will keep you looking over your shoulder. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. First, we'll head to college, where a classmate forms an unhealthy obsession. Narrated by Dacey Else from Reddit user TimeHair9440.
Three years ago, I moved into a student apartment building about an hour away from my parents' place. I was only 17 at the time, but I had spent a lot of time negotiating with my parents so they would let me live on my own and study independently. They had been reluctant since the school felt so far from our home, but I'd worn them down. We'd found an apartment that was small, but I liked it. It was my first taste of freedom, a space of my very own that I could decorate however I wanted, a chance to make new friends and find out what life was like as an adult. At first, things were going really well. I settled into my studies and gathered a group of friends around me. My very best friend was a girl named Ava. We spent most of our free time together, and I knew I could count on her for just about anything. Things started to go wrong about halfway through the first semester. I came back to my apartment after spending a weekend with my parents and noticed a new doormat beneath the door next to mine. Cool, I thought. New neighbor. A couple of nights later, I was hanging out in the common room downstairs. It was everything you'd expect a common room to be, some couches scattered around, a small bar for making coffee and snacks, a foosball table. Basically just a chill space where us students could hang out and try to stay out of trouble. Anyway, I was sprawled out on one of the couches with Ava and a couple of our other friends when this guy walked in. He had his hands in his pockets and his eyes on the floor, giving off just the most shy boy energy. He looked kinda lost. Ava spotted him too, and she leaned over to ask me if we should invite him to join us. I shrugged, which was all the permission she needed to spring to her feet and approach the guy. She steered him over to us and introduced him. For this story, I'm going to call him Dylan. We waved and told him our names, and he eventually perched on the very end of the couch. The whole night he barely talked to us, but I figured he was just nervous. He'd get comfortable eventually. The one thing I found out was that he had just moved into the apartment next door to mine. At the end of the evening, I walked Ava back to her apartment and she asked me what I thought about Dylan. I told her the truth. I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to him. She smirked and said, "Didn't you notice the way he kept looking at you? I think he likes you." I laughed it off. I wasn't all that into boys at the time. I was there to study, not date. Still, it was kind of nice to think I might have an admirer. A little while later, maybe a week or so, I was down grabbing my mail. It was mostly the usual junk mail and catalogs, plus a postcard from my aunt who was on a trip through Italy at the time. While I was flipping through the stack, a small folded-over piece of paper fell out. It had my first name written on the outside. I opened it up to find a single handwritten message. "You dress so well. You're more beautiful every day." I smiled. An unsigned note from a mysterious stranger. It felt like something that would happen to a character in a romantic movie, but that's all it was, a funny little daydream. I told Ava about the note and we laughed about it. No big deal. But in reality, it was just the first red flag that something was wrong. One evening later that semester, I was at work. I had a part-time job at a small restaurant near campus to earn some spending money. It was about 2 hours before closing when Dylan walked through the door. He sat down behind the bar and I went to take his order. He seemed really happy to see me and was very chatty. I didn't want to be rude, but I had a lot of other customers to take care of, so I couldn't give him my full attention. And besides, I'd barely spoken to him since that first night in the common room. He seemed nice, but I didn't really know anything about him, so I wasn't sure what to talk about. As the restaurant slowly emptied out, we got ready to close up, but Dylan was still there. I thought that was strange because he'd finished eating quite a while earlier, but it didn't feel sinister or anything. I figured he was still lonely and that he might just enjoy being around other people. When I finished my shift, we walked back to our building together. We got to our hallway and I was about to say goodbye when he pulled me into a hug and said, "I'm happy to have a friend here. You're one of the only ones." I was very surprised. Like I said, we barely knew each other, but again, I kind of brushed it off. He didn't have many friends and maybe he was still learning how to be one. The next day, I ran into Dylan in the hallway at school. He came over to talk to me between classes, but it wasn't a normal conversation. He just kept asking me questions about me, like weirdly specific ones. What city do your parents live in? What's your class schedule? Do you have a boyfriend? Whenever I tried to ask him something about himself, he kind of ignored me and steered the topic back to me. In the days that followed, I found myself running into Dylan everywhere. In the morning, on my way to school, in the hallways every day, when I got home in the evening. At first, we'd hardly ever crossed paths, but now it was like I couldn't avoid him if I tried. It started to feel really strange, and I brought it up with Ava and some of our other friends. They all downplayed it, saying that Dylan and I must just have the same class schedule. I was obsessing over something that was probably nothing. For a while, I'd been thinking about the note in my mail earlier in the year. I wanted to tell my friends that I thought it was probably from Dylan, but I figured they'd just tell me I was being silly, so I kept it to myself. One day I was cooking at home when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and my first thought was that it was Ava picking up a book she'd lent me. But when I looked through the peephole, I saw Dylan with this big smile on his face. I stood there for a moment, not sure what to do, but he lived next door, so I knew he had probably heard that I was home. Reluctantly, I opened the door. As soon as I did, he held something out to me. A box of Ferrero Rocher chocolates. He said, "This is to thank you for being a golden friend." It was a strange interaction. I thanked him for the chocolates and then awkwardly closed the door. I went back to cooking my dinner, wondering why he'd chosen Ferrero's to give me. It was so specific. Later, I was eating the chocolates when I remembered. The day before, I was grocery shopping with a friend. We were in the candy aisle and she'd picked up some chocolate for herself. I'd mentioned to her that Ferrero Rochers were my favorite, but that they were expensive, so I need to wait until the next month to splurge on some. But obviously, I told my friend that, not Dylan. The only way he could have known they were my favorites is if he'd been listening to our conversation. The thing was, I hadn't seen him in the grocery store at all. So, had he made a lucky guess? It was still bothering me the next day, so I told Ava about it. She agreed that it was a strange gift to receive for no reason. Stranger still that he'd managed to find something I definitely like, but she swore that he hadn't asked her for advice on what to buy me. As the days went by, I kept running into Dylan more and more. He wanted to talk to me every time it happened. Aside from anything else, it was starting to get really annoying. I wanted to just get on with my life, so I talked to my friends again, and this time they were all in agreement. I needed to tell Dylan that his behavior was bothering me and that I'd like him to keep his distance. It took me a couple more days to work up the courage to speak to him. The thought of having an awkward conversation was stressing me out, but eventually I did it. I saw him in the school hallway one morning and walked right up to him. I said, "Dylan, you're very kind. I know we're neighbors, but I feel like you're following me, and you think you're very close to me even though we barely know each other. I want you to understand that I don't have anything against you personally, but I'd like you to keep your distance." At that moment, his face fell. He looked angry and a bit sad. It was hard knowing that I'd upset him, but I also knew that it was for the best. A little while before the end of the year holiday period, my cousin came to visit, staying at my place for a couple of days. We hung out together most of the time. He was here, catching up and swapping stories about our lives since the last time we'd seen each other. Since I'd spoken to Dylan, I'd barely seen him, and whenever I did pass him, he hardly looked at me. I worried that I'd hurt his feelings, but I still preferred that to the way it felt not knowing if he was following me wherever I went. On the day my cousin left, I walked him to the train station and said goodbye, then walked home alone. I returned to find Dylan in the hallway on our floor. He said hello, and I said hello back, and then he asked, "That boy, is he your boyfriend?" I shook my head and explained that he was my cousin who'd come for a visit. Dylan didn't say anything. He just went into his apartment and shut the door. A couple of days before the holiday break, I got back to my apartment one night and there was a bouquet of flowers waiting for me on my kitchen table. A note attached read, "Happy Holidays." I knew right away that they were from Dylan, but what I didn't know was how he'd gotten them into my apartment. Obviously, he didn't have keys to my place, and even if he did, he had no right to come into my space. I was angry, so I picked up the flowers and went to ring his doorbell. When he opened the door, I said, "Listen, I'm not going to repeat myself again. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in you, and I don't want your gifts either, so please don't waste your money anymore. Give these flowers to someone else." His face fell, but he took the flowers and said, "Okay." Still fuming, I asked how he'd managed to leave the flowers in my locked apartment. He explained that he'd asked the building caretaker to open the door for him. Annoyed at the massive invasion of my privacy, I ended the conversation and went back to my apartment, thinking that I'd finally made my feelings clear to Dylan and that he would back off. I was wrong. One night, I was woken by the sound of my doorbell. I was startled when I looked at the time on my phone. It was 3 a.m. I wondered who could be disturbing me at that hour. I got out of bed and walked quietly across the apartment to the front door. I looked through the peephole, but it was dark in the hallway and I couldn't make out who was there. My heart was pounding, and I could feel my body filling with adrenaline. So I backed slowly away from the door, hoping that whoever was out there couldn't hear me. Then I heard it. A whispered voice. "Open up. I just want to explain myself." It was Dylan. Knowing he was out there terrified me. Showing up at someone's door is not a normal thing to do. I couldn't move. I wanted to check the door was locked in case he tried to open it, but I was afraid of alerting him to my presence, so instead I moved into the bathroom, the only room in the apartment with a lock on the door. I hoped Dylan would leave when I didn't answer him, but he just kept knocking on the door harder and harder. I had no idea what to do, so I sent off a text message to Ava, but it was the middle of the night, so she didn't reply. As I was sitting there on the tiles, I heard a sharp noise, like the scratching of metal on metal. It took me a moment to realize what he was doing. He was trying to force the lock. I told myself not to panic and dialed the police. When the operator picked up, I was so stressed out that I could only whisper my address, the floor, and the apartment number. The operator told me that police were on their way and promised to stay on the line until they arrived. But with every passing minute, I worried that Dylan would manage to get through the door. And what would he do if that happened before the cops made it? The longer I waited, the harder the blows on the door got. After an agonizing wait, I heard footsteps out in the hallway and someone shouting, then some kind of muffled banging. Seconds later, there was another knock on my door, a calmer, softer one than earlier. A man's voice called out, "Open up, miss. This is the police." I left the bathroom and looked through the peephole again. The light was on now, and I could see that an officer was standing there. When I opened the door, the first thing I saw was Dylan on the ground, his hands cuffed behind his back. He looked furious. One of the cops stood watch over him while the other asked me questions about what had happened. I started with that night's 3 a.m. visit, but before I knew it, I was telling him the whole story from the very start. He listened quietly, stopping to ask me a few questions along the way. When I was done, he said he would call me when they had an update for me. Then they took Dylan away. After that came the holiday break. I stayed with my parents for 2 weeks, and it did me a lot of good to be away from my apartment for a while. The police called me and told me they'd gone through Dylan's phone and laptop. It turned out Dylan had found out a lot of information about me from my social media accounts. He'd found all of them, even my parents' joint Facebook profile. Then they told me that he had previously assaulted his ex-girlfriend several times, and that one incident had landed her in the hospital. I was shocked. Dylan had weirded me out for a while, but I hadn't been truly scared of him until that last night. It was terrifying to think what he might have done if I let him get closer to me. I returned to school after the holiday break and moved into an apartment with Ava. Now, 3 years later, I finished my studies and am living with my parents again. I'm still afraid to live on my own. I hope that one day I'll have the courage to be independent in that way again, but I don't know when that will be. I look back at the girl I was when all of this started, and I want to warn her about what's coming. But then again, I'm not sure what I could say that would make a difference. That's what makes me so scared. I thought I did everything right. and I still couldn't control what happened.
Every group has someone who insists on doing things the hard way. That friend still paying for a subscription they forgot they had, the one refusing to update their phone because it still works. I used to be that person too, especially when it came to overpaying for wireless. Then I switched to Mint Mobile, and I'm so glad I did. Because here's the thing. Mint gives you the premium wireless you expect, unlimited talk, text, and data, but without the inflated price tag. Same coverage, same speed, just way less money disappearing into the void every month. And recently, we actually added another phone to our plan. So if the kids are home alone, they've got a direct line to mom and dad. It's peace of mind without paying big wireless panic prices. Ready to stop paying for more than you have to? New customers can make the switch today and for a limited time, get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/disturbed. That's mintmobile.com/disturbed. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com. A well-built wardrobe is about pieces that work together and hold up over time. That's what Quince does best. Premium materials, thoughtful design, and everyday staples that feel easy to wear and easy to rely on, even as the weather shifts. And for me, Quince has become one of those brands I keep coming back to because it just works. I've got their joggers in heavy rotation, my bed sheets from Quince have legitimately changed the quality of my sleep, and my Flow-Knit Performance Zip Hoodie is one of those grab-it-without-thinking staples that's always comfortable and always looks good. Quince has the everyday essentials I love with quality that lasts. Organic cotton sweaters, polos for every occasion, lighter jackets that keep you warm in the changing seasons, the list goes on. And they cut out the middlemen so you're not paying for the brand markup, just quality that holds up to daily wear. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/disturbed for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed. Welcome back, listeners. In our next story, a mother wonders, will she be able to protect her child? Narrated by Laura Lockwood, from Reddit user PoppyLove7296.
Here in the United States, we have a dollar store called Dollar Tree. They carry all kinds of products there. Groceries, cleaning supplies, toys, you name it. That's probably why my daughter used to love visiting our local Dollar Tree and just looking around. This happened one afternoon in 2006 when she was about 10 years old. We were in the store, enjoying our time together. She was old enough that I'd allow her to wander down an aisle that interested her while I looked at things at the end caps, or the next aisle over. I liked her to have the space to test her independence like that. Every few minutes, I'd pop into the aisle where she was to check on her, see if she wanted to move on to another part of the store. It was our routine. We'd done it dozens of times. On this particular afternoon, though, I noticed that there was this tall man that just was kind of hanging around where we were browsing. He didn't seem to be looking at anything on the shelves, which is honestly what made me notice him right away. It looked like he was waiting for something, just standing there, eyes slightly unfocused. His demeanor kind of set my senses off, gave me a strange vibe. I walked directly over to my daughter and took her hand in mine.
I wanted her close, but didn't want to alarm her. Still, she clearly knew that something was off. Like I said, I usually let her do her own thing in the store, but she gave me a quizzical look and didn't say anything as I steered her into the next aisle over. Within seconds, this man had followed us. He hovered a few feet away, not talking and clearly not looking at any of the merchandise. I leaned down and quietly told my daughter that I needed her to please stay beside me no matter what I did or where I went. I didn't want her out of my sight. I also asked her not to ask any questions right now. She has autism and she usually wants to stay in the loop about everything we're doing, but she must have sensed that this wasn't the time because she just nodded at me. I decided we should move to a different area of the store altogether. That way we'd be able to see if he was really following us. So I led us across to the furthest corner from where we had been. But sure enough, this guy showed up within a minute. As soon as I saw him, I pulled my daughter off to another area, trying to, shake him off or give him a hint. We were all over the place. Stationery, groceries, makeup. Everywhere we went, our shadow followed. I thought about telling an employee, but I honestly couldn't tell if he was just kind of weird or if he was actually dangerous. Plus, I was a young mom, and I really didn't want to cause a scene. Eventually, though, I decided that we were done in the store. I think my daughter would have been happy to stay longer, but I wanted to get out of there. I told her that we'd come back to finish our shopping another day. Then we went to the checkout to pay for the couple of things I'd put in my basket. There were lines behind all of the registers, and as we were waiting, I looked around trying to look casual as I scanned the store for this strange man. I couldn't see him in any of the aisles I was close to, which was a relief. And then my heart just about stopped. He was standing in the next line over, waiting to check out with a pack of gum. I might have been overthinking things, but I felt like he'd chosen the line with a similar number of people to ours, like he wanted to be leaving the store at the same time as us. My heart was racing by now. The second we finished checking out, I made a beeline for the door, telling my daughter not to let go of my hand and to do exactly as I asked. She nodded again, and I said that as soon as we reached the car, she was to get in and lock the door behind her. She nodded again. Moments later, we reached the car. As my daughter climbed in, I checked over my shoulder and saw the man walking up behind us. He was moving quickly, but we were far enough away that I had time to get behind the wheel and lock my door before he reached us. I pulled out of our spot, too focused on getting us out of there to keep an eye on where he went. We lived just down the street from the store, but I took us on a very scenic route home, just in case he was trying to follow us. Luckily, I never saw the stranger again. I still think about him a lot, though, and I wonder what his intentions were. Today, older and wiser, I would have no problem making a scene right there in the store or asking the staff for help, but I wasn't as confident back then, and I knew plenty of other women would probably feel the same way. As the years have gone by, I've wondered how close we came to actual danger. The thought makes me sick to my stomach and makes me thankful we never found out.
Don't run away. Disturbed will return in a moment.
On February 13th, Crime 101 hits theaters.
What is it that you do?
I take high-value items and make them disappear.
So you're a thief.
This guy's a ghost. There's no DNA. He's in and out in seconds.
Your guy's untraceable.
Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Barry Keoghan, and Halle Berry. One crime connects them all.
We're good at this.
Yeah.
Crime 101, directed by Bart Layton. Rated R, under 17 not admitted without parent. Only in theaters February 13th.
Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
Our final story follows a few rowdy teenagers on the night that was almost their last. Narrated by Donovan Shepard, from Reddit user SingerLivid7779.
This happened about 3 years ago. At the time, I didn't know who to tell about it. None of us did. Mostly out of shock, I guess. But also because we didn't know exactly what we saw. We still don't, to tell you the truth. So we've kept it to ourselves. But I have to tell someone. It started the same way it ended, with me and my two buddies. I'll call them Zach and Jake. One day, just before spring break, we were bored. Not surprising, since we were teenagers at the time. We were always looking for something to do. And without many other options presenting themselves to us, we decided to make a little fun of our own by throwing a party. Zach's house was the biggest, and it had a huge backyard with a pool. Plus, his parents were away for the weekend, so the timing was perfect. We got the word out to all of our friends and told them to let other people in our grade know. And then the three of us met at Zach's place to set everything up. By sunset, people were showing up in small clusters, moving through the house and spilling into the backyard. Some of the guests brought their bathing suits. Others jumped in fully dressed. And that was before the drinking started. Eventually, there was close to 80 people there, maybe more. A few people brought beer as the night went on, and everyone was having a good time. Eventually, it started to get cold, and the drinks ran dry, so everyone cleared out. By about 1:30, the house was empty. Thing is, though, Zach, Jake, and I still had plenty of energy left. We were basking in the glow of our successful party and weren't ready for the night to end. We spent a little while picking up trash from the yard and fishing beer cans out of the pool. But we lost interest in that pretty quickly when we spotted Zach's Can-Am out by the shed. The other thing that made Zach's place the perfect place to host a party was its location. Theirs was the last house in the neighborhood, and his yard backed out onto this massive cornfield, stretching out about a mile. There were no houses behind it, just open fields. And they had this gate that opened directly onto it. Naturally, we decided that we should take the Can-Am out into the field. It only had 2 seats, but there was room for someone to stand on the back. So around 2 a.m., we grabbed the Bluetooth speaker off the back porch, climb onto the Can-Am, and drive out into the corn, music blaring. We cruised around for about 30 minutes, laughing and taking turns driving. But eventually we'd had enough and turned to go back to the house. We were about halfway through the field when it happened. A man appeared. He just came out of nowhere. It was so quick, and we were going so fast that it was hard to get a good look at him. But I thought he was maybe about 60. His hair was gray anyway, and he was wearing a vest. Mostly though, all I could focus on was the rifle in his hands. We blew right by him without stopping, really gunning it back towards Zach's place. But about 500 feet away from the creepy man, the Can-Am's engine just shut off. The keys were still in it, but it just died. My heart dropped. I was sure the guy could probably still see us because of the headlights, and I knew that we were within range of his rifle. But when I looked over my shoulder, I couldn't see him. He should have been easy to spot over the corn, but he just wasn't there. After a few seconds of Jake and I urging Zach on, he finally got the Can-Am going again, and we raced back to the house. Once we were close enough to open the gate to feel like we were safe, we climbed off and bent double, all of us trying to catch our breath. I felt like I had just run a mile. Seconds later, there was a loud bang, followed by the sound of something metal crashing into the Can-Am. It sounded like a gunshot. A moment later, we heard the same bang, and I felt something go whizzing by me. A shot rang out and something whizzed past us. That was enough to get us back on the bike and speeding through the gate. We drove right up to the house and ran inside as fast as we could go. We raced around, locking every door and window in the place, then turned off all the lights. When we were sure the place was secure, Zach remembered that his parents had security cameras in the front and back of the house. He showed us to the room where there were a couple of small monitors showing the feeds. That's when everything got worse. As we watched, a car slowly drove into the backyard and sat there. The headlights stayed on, and it just sat there, idling for about 15 minutes. None of us recognized the car, and no one got out. And inside the house, none of us moved. We just stared at the monitors, completely silent, afraid to even breathe too loudly. Eventually, the car drove away, and we felt like the coast was finally clear, but we didn't sleep that night. The next morning, it was all we could talk about. We couldn't work out why some guy was standing in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of the night. Not only that, but where had that car come from? It was so soon after we got inside that it had to have been close by, but we just didn't know where. We checked Google Maps to make sure there weren't any places nearby that we'd forgotten about, but there was nothing. No other houses out there, no shelters, nothing anywhere near the field at all. We finally decided that he must have been out there the entire night. Maybe he'd even been watching all of us at the party. We went outside to finish cleaning up, and Zach checked the Can-Am. He called us over and pointed at a puncture in the metal on one side. He said that it hadn't been there before. We couldn't be sure, but it looked like the kind of hole that a bullet would make. The three of us never really spoke about it after that. I think we were all freaked out by what had happened, by the thought that someone had been out there, that they'd briefly hunted us like animals. Over the last 3 years, I've thought about different explanations for why that guy was out there with his gun. Maybe he was just the landowner, and he was trying to scare off some rowdy kids. Or he could have just been some random guy wandering around in the dark with a gun. Either way, I never went back to that field to find out.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Declan Roars. Audio engineering by Nathan Corson, Will Pritz, and Sean Rule Hoffman. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.
Crisp, refreshing, and unmistakably tasty. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. It's the only drink with real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar.
Do you have a dark curiosity? Heart Starts Pounding, Horrors, Hauntings, and Mysteries is a weekly podcast hosted by me, Kaylin Moore. Each week, I'll take you on a dark journey through terrifying true urban legends, bizarre true crime cases, chilling tales of backwoods horror, and more. So if you're looking to join a passionate community of the darkly curious, check out Heart Starts Pounding on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, stay curious.